Hi, welcome, Dr. Shelley Prevost. We are beyond excited to have you with us today. We cannot tell you how excited we are to be working with you. Most of our membership knows by this point that we have an upcoming leadership track with you, the second in our series of 5 that we're working toward. As most people know, this is not a soft lift; it's a heavy lift. You and I have been talking about this for, I think, maybe close to the past 2 years. Obviously some of that's delayed because of COVID, but you and I have had some amazing conversations. And, it's really just a byproduct of the work that I get to do, that I get to encounter and intersect with people like you. And of course, you and I are close friends. And so it's made all the richer by some of our personal moments together, back porch sessions, as we call them. But you've just been amazing. And I'm just so proud of the work that you are doing right now. I keep watching your journey, and I keep watching transformation and arc and just all those fun words about, you stretching yourself beyond where you were 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, 5 years ago. Most people in Chattanooga, if they have met you, they've either met you through Lamppost, they've met you through Torch, they've met you through Board Service, they've met you through Jump Fund. Any number of ways that you have worked to build the Chattanooga market. And what I would say, you've been a major contributor to the Chattanooga human infrastructure over the last decade or more that you and your husband Chad have been living here. So we are delighted that you have selected us to partner with in some of your new venture. Dr. Shelley Prevost, for those of you that don't know, is the founder of Big Self School. So let's start there real quick and just give us a quick update on what Big Self School is for those that don't already know about it.
Yeah, first of all, Kim, thank you for this opportunity to get to talk about something that I'm as you know, so incredibly passionate about, and to have the chance to work with you and CWLI again. Like, this is all kind of culminating in the perfect place for me to be able to do this work with you all. And so I could not be more excited to kick this off in January. So I'm excited to see who's showing up, who's raising their hand to do this work. And I'm really invigorated by that. So Big Self School, we are a personal and professional development school. And underneath that umbrella, we offer a lot of different ways that you can engage with us through coaching, through consulting. We do a lot around the Enneagram. We're putting together emotional fitness kind of workshops and free webinars where not just leaders, we tend to focus a lot on kind of mid-level and executives, but really anybody who wants to be very intentional about personal development. Then we're going to be doing a lot of 2022 is going to be really exciting and very different for us. So we're stepping out in a big way that's risky and scary, but super exciting also.
We're in the same boat. So, you and I align in that space. And I like to say that a lot of the work that we do, we are always about partnership and collaboration. And so a lot of the work that we do introduces folks to places where they can take the next step. So you can get introduced to Big Self School through some of the work that we will do together, but it's never an either or. You don't have to choose us or Big Self. It's alignment around the work and wanting people to lean into their best leadership. That's and right. I think, our common alignment is really around leadership. And you mentioned recently that, when people come to our well, it's, even coming out of COVID is kind of challenging because we're asking people to continue to show up and work. And that cognitive labor that we're calling them to is so worth it, but it is a hard first step to take. And so it's, it's really, it's one of those things, once you get into it and you really embrace what's going on, it is some of the most refreshing and reformative work that people can do. Yeah. So let's talk a second about what the session is. Our upcoming leadership track that starts in January, that, as you know, has 4 sessions to it, full day sessions once a month: January, February, March, and April, from 9 to 4. We currently have, I believe, about a dozen people registered at this point in time. And we look for, we can take up to about 25 for this course. So anybody who's interested, check out CWLI.org for more information about it. But the course itself is called Elevating Performance inner leadership. I would love for you to talk to us a little bit about those two ideas, elevating performance, inner leadership.
Mhm.
Is one external, one's internal? Are they both integrated? Tell us about both of those ideas and why they relate to one another, and a little bit about the course itself.
Yeah. So inner leadership really relates to the idea of self-leadership. This is really, what I think about around self-awareness and kind of inner capacities, like really knowing yourself well, knowing your strengths and weaknesses, knowing your limitations and blind spots, knowing how you show up, not only as a leader, but for your team and for your family. And so the things that we're going to teach and talk about, this is important, really important, critical work. But the truth is, here's the truth. We don't learn these things the way that we learn other things in school, college, even out of school as we move into the workplace. These are so critical, these skills that are important to leadership and elevating performance. But these aren't things that come easy to a lot of us unless we do intentional work. And sometimes, and I'm one of these people, like it's literally signing up for a class, someone who knows that I'm going to be there. They're going to guide me through the process. That's how most of us really need to be doing this work, this inner work of building our own kind of inner capacities and inner muscles of emotional intelligence. And I believe when women do this work, I think evidenced by our collaboration, Kim, when women are at the helm and they're working on their own self-awareness and how do I connect with others in a collaborative way, not in this competitive way, then the ripple of that extends far beyond, the dozen or 25 women that may be in this cohort with us. It is going to really permeate into the community and I think that's the level of impact. I get goosebumps talking about it.
I do too.
That's when shifts really start happening on a seismic level that starts with women doing some very just the hard work, the hard inner work of knowing themselves. And so we're going to touch on all of that. The first month, the first full day that we have together is all around self-awareness. It's all around, we have to know our starting point. We have to know what are the ingredients we're starting with that we're going to then build over for the next 4 months. And so there's going to be a lot of almost what I would think of like group coaching. We're going to do a lot of breakouts, a lot of training around these concepts. And then every month you'll get homework on, because that's my big thing. It's like, if it stays in that room, then we're wasting our time. This work has to move with you into your life, into your work. And so I'm going to help coach you through that and really do some work between sessions to integrate and solidify what you're learning.
And I think the benefit as well as I'm listening to you talk is that we have so many people who in our world who we're running on so much automaticity with so many things, but this work is not one of those. And so I think what you can bring to the table is we can begin to utilize a part of our brain that we don't access very often because we're so bent and wired towards the tyranny of the immediate that this cognitive labor doesn't take care of itself the way it needs to. And I think the work that you can bring us to, again, the calling you can bring us to, is to help access that part of our brains that makes this a little more automatic, hopefully. I think it's going to be listening to you describe it. I really feel like that's such a benefit to women right now.
There's our standard 10 effective leadership skills. So there's a rubric almost that we know we need these essential skills to be effective in leadership, but we're all coming at these ideas and these skills with very different lenses, very different ways of interacting with them. And so the question then becomes, okay, if delegation is an effective leadership skill and I really struggle with that, why? What's getting in my way? what's the mental process, the cognitive processing, emotional processing that's making this really hard for me, that I'm getting hung up on it. And that's the level of inner work that a lot of these programs don't touch on. But if you really want to transform and be as effective as you can be, you have to do that deeper work. And so, yeah, that's what we're gonna be doing.
There's so much that we've adopted too, and we don't realize we have to scaffold in a new way of doing things.
Absolutely.
So, I cannot wait. I cannot wait. This is going to be such a great
It'll
session.
be good. Yeah.
So in some of the stuff that we've talked about in the past in preparation for this leadership track, I've heard you say the phrase, and this has just stuck with me, we're the leaders we're waiting for.
Mm-hmm.
What a powerful statement. Say more about that, please.
Yeah. So so back in 2015, I did a TED Talk in Barcelona, and it was all about, it was Lead Like a Girl, was the title. And it was around the kind of really beautiful way that I have witnessed women lead with such emotional clarity, nurturing, like a communication capacity that I hadn't seen in a lot of men, or that masculine style. I'll say it that way, masculine style of leading. And so I was really compelled by that. And I think as I've seen the pandemic unfold, I've grown in my own leadership capacity. There's something that's happening, I think, collectively in our country right now, where I don't think women are on the outside looking in as much. I think there are women stepping in and being looked to fill these gaps where there's so much suffering happening in the world, in our workplaces. And so no longer, and it's a very intuitive shift that I see happening, but where women aren't knocking on the door saying, let me in, look, let me lead. I think it's time, and it's for women to step in really confident ways of leading with all these beautiful ways that we lead. And we're being asked to, we're being like, please come in and help us with these issues. We don't know how to keep people engaged and happy at work. We don't know how to keep them from burning out. And so I see that no longer are we, and I think there's something about the age that I'm at as I knock on the door of 50. It's like we're the generation that are stepping in and really have this capacity to do things differently. And so instead of looking around, the last few years, it was like, I'm no longer looking around waiting to be rescued or somebody else to come in and do this work. I'm actually looking in the mirror and like, no, I got to do this work. Like, I have to step into this in a really authentic way, which, to your point earlier, led me to do a lot of my own inner work over the last few years. So for me to be like confident and authentic and stepping into this, I had to do it myself. And so that's when I say that we're the leaders we're waiting for, that's what I mean. It's no longer do we have the luxury of kind of staying in the back and letting another generation or another gender. It's like, no, it's time for us to step into that.
Absolutely. And, it's a scary arena, to borrow a term from, Brene Brown. It's a scary arena to step into because you're really putting yourself, even just, before we got on the broadcast today, I was telling you, even doing something like this, I love these conversations. But for as much as I love these conversations, the minute you put yourself out there as the representative of a particular idea, we're in a moment where so much vitriol can come back at you. And so to your point, I love what you said. I had to make sure that I could be confident and authentic in the way that I was stepping out. And I think that that's what this leadership track is going to offer women is your way of being confident about how you're stepping out, and being that representative. And it's not lost on me that no longer is it just one or two representing in a space. Now it has to be multiples of us representing in a space, and we have to walk together as a collective. You know, where we go next is determined by the collective.
And support each other.
Yes. Yes.
We got to lean on each other and support each other doing this work.
Which is a muscle we have to flex.
Yeah.
Let's be honest about that. That is a muscle we've got to flex.
Yeah.
So I think there's just so much opportunity here. It's maybe a muscle we're not used to. It's not a muscle we've been trained for, and it's a muscle we've got to work on now.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. So a component of this, speaking of muscles, is around wellness or self-care. I'll be honest with you. I have a love-hate relationship with self-care. I have a love-hate relationship.
We talked about it.
Wellness.
Yeah.
I have seen it be abused and move, you know, from self-care and really keeping yourself healthy for the purpose that transcends you, the purpose beyond you, to selfishness sometimes. And I struggle with that a little bit. And I'll even admit that for myself, you know, that XYZ gets put on the back burner because I want to do this, and this. That's not what self-care is. Self-care is not postponing what has to happen, right? It's not postponing the purpose to replace it with myself. It is making sure that I'm armored, that I'm geared up for the purpose at hand. Am I reading that correctly?
Yes.
So say more about that. And then tell us what your favorite self-care activity is and why for that purpose.
Yeah, I remember years ago, I think it was a meme I saw on social media. So don't build a life that you have to escape from. And which is kind of the mainstream idea of self-care is like something that you go and escape into so that you can leave the stress of work or whatever behind. And at the time I was like, oh, well, that's great. You know, not good for you. Most of us, you know, have stress and have struggles, and it's just very much the reality. And so you know, self-care, I think it means a lot of different things. I think the fundamental definition that I come at with it is if it's anything, it's restorative. It has to be whatever activity, practice, idea, philosophy that you hold true to that restores you body, mind, and soul. And again, like, so we're going to spend the whole last month of this program talking about wellness, and we come at it with different angles. A lot of people have love-hate relationships with it. I think intellectually we know we need to make time for restorative activities, but we don't. And so we're going to look at what contributes to that culturally, what contributes to that personally, and build out a plan, you know, and even if it's just a little bit of a movement toward more self-care or practicing, you know, something that restores you, body, mind, or soul, then I want everybody to leave with some ideas of what that could be for them. Yeah. Even if it's not a huge, you know, life makeover, if it's just a little bit that we can start adding to our toolbox, that's what I would want. So for me personally, a lot of the work I've done in the last few years is just even recognizing I have needs. And as an Enneagram 2, which we won't do in this program, but as a 2, it's very easy for me to dismiss that I have physical, emotional needs and to emphasize everybody else in my life's needs. And so a lot of self-care for me has simply been an acknowledging that I have needs. And now whether I act on them or not is debatable. I've really loved, like, I just got back from the gym, and I mean, anybody that knew me in high school would be shocked that I love moving my body as much as I do. I mean, I've been repulsed by it my entire life. And so now it's like, I can't imagine not working out and moving, and even if it's just walking, like, there's something so mentally healthy about that for me that I know I need. And so I think we would all have these things that we might have to experiment with and kind of play around with. But something that kind of brings you back to center That's what when I say self-care, when I talk about wellness and sustainability around your work, that's what we have to get real clear on. What brings us back to our center.
I love what you talk about with sustainability. You know, we talk about sustainability in systems a lot in organizations and, you know, the way that we build things. We don't talk about that on an individual level.
Mm-hmm.
And particularly for women whose time can get sabotaged from them by children, by, you know, partners, by whatever. It is so important to set that side of time, set aside that time. So we're hopeful that that's what people are going to do with your session. I'm going to take it. I am just beyond excited about it. I cannot
Me
wait.
too. Yeah,
I mean,
I'm excited to be a part of this community that's going to be able to go do this work together.
Right. I mean, and I really genuinely believe that on the other side of this, we are going to have, you know, we're going to have women who are so well equipped to go out and do what needs to happen in Chattanooga and, you know, and beyond. So I agree with you on the ripple effect. Well, we are delighted that you are going to help us with that. And I just can't wait to get to jump in. So the session begins in January. Again, you can get more information about it at CWLI.org. Dr. Shelley Prevost, thank you very much for spending some time with us today.
Thank you for having me.
It's good to see you.
You too.